We'll do the roll call. Alderman Simonetti,
Present.
Alderman McKinnon,
Here.
Alderman McPherson,
Present.
Alderman Perry.
Present.
Alderman Angley's present, Alderman Balmacy,
Here.
Alderman Simmons,
He's excused.
he's having surgery today. Alderman Durante.
Present.
Thank you. First order of business is and the only order of business is the adoption of the budget for fiscal year 2024, 2025. It's a long time in coming. We're all on the edge of our seat. Alderman McPherson, would you read it, the motion?
Move to approve the following resolution. Be it resolved by the Board of Aldermen of the City of Shelton in accordance with Section 7.6 of the city charter that the budget document submitted by the mayor on March 21st, 2024 be amended and such budget as amended be adopted as the official budget and mill rate for the City of Shelton for fiscal year 2024, 2025. On the revenue side, current levy increase $6,683,476. Statutory refunds decrease 100,000. Pilot.
Excuse me, would you kindly read in the mayor's recommendation and then the Board of
okay,
Aldermen?
okay.
And then the increase or decrease?
We'll go back.
Start over.
Yeah, we'll go back. Current levy, mayor's recommendation, 110,048,737. Board of Aldermen, budget, 116,732,213. Increase of $6,683,476. Statutory refunds, mayor's recommendation was minus 20,000. Board of Aldermen final budget was minus 120,000, and that's a $100,000 decrease.
Explain that. It was because it was a clerical error
Right.
and it was in the revenue side, so it shows as nice. Go ahead.
So we're just doing the housekeeping there. On pilot city housing, the mayor's recommendation was $25,900. Board of Aldermen final budget, $56,779. And that's an increase of $29,879.
Oh, for corrections,
Yeah.
55,000.
55,000.
Oh, this is, okay. A little blurred there. On the expenditure side, police pension, mayor's recommendation, $1,750,000. Board of Aldermen final budget, $1,900,000, increase of $150,000. Group insurance, mayor's recommendation, $4,500,000. Board of Aldermen final budget, $5,900,000, increase of $1,400,000. Board of Education, mayor's recommendation, $78,259,538. Board of Aldermen final budget, $79,809,827. Increase $1,550,289. Insurance revenue, reserve, insurance reserve, Board of Education, mayor's recommendation, 0. Board of Aldermen final budget, $2 million, increase $2 million. Next item, Board of Education, special education excess cost, mayor's recommendation, 0. Board of Aldermen final budget, $1,313,066, increase of $1,313,066. Eminent domain expenses, mayor's recommendation, 0. Board of Aldermen final budget, $690,000, increase $690,000, resulting in a total budget of $141,269,834 for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2024. The mill rate shall be established at 19.18 mills with a collection date for fiscal year 2024, 2025 to be July 1, 2024, and on January 1, 2025 for real estate. July 1, 2024 for personal property taxes, less than $5,000, and on July 1, 2024, and on January 1, 2025, for personal property taxes equal to or greater than $5,000, and on July 1, 2024, for the motor vehicle tax, with the exception of those that carry their own collection date as determined by statute under the motor vehicle supplement. Any tax under $5 will be waived. Also, be it resolved that the Board of Aldermen accepts in principle the capital improvements program as submitted. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and second. Is there any discussion? There's no discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Declare it passed unanimously. Hold your applause till after I speak. Thank you for the laughter. I want to read a message into the record. The mayor and the Board of Aldermen have been working closely with the Board of Education Superintendent Saranich since his appointment. We have observed that much of our educational costs are caused by the out-of-control federal inflation, which has driven healthcare, groceries, gasoline, and other consumer costs off the charts. The special education law that requires full funding of special education needs, regardless of the cost, is another major education cost factor. In fiscal year 2024, there were some 80+ special education students who entered our district after the start of school and after the budget was set. This happens every year, making it impossible to accurately budget special education costs. The law provides for state special education excess cost reimbursements to the Board of Education. The Board of Education submits their special education excess costs for state reimbursement, but historically, the state only funds a portion, about 68%, thereby leaving the Board of Education to deal with the deficit, and that deficit is unpredictable. To fill the shortfall during the school year, the Board of Education must use money from the mainstream student budget to fund special education needs. Consequently, you hear that mainstream students have no instructional supplies. And we hear from you that the Board of Aldermen did not fully fund the education budget. Neither is true. Since this happens year after year, we are now hearing that the Board of Aldermen chronically underfunds the Board of Education budget. Put this on Facebook and you create a false narrative which too many people believe to be the budget gospel. Last year, the city had a budget surplus. The superintendent appealed for our help to manage the Board of Education deficit issues. The mayor and the Board of Aldermen decided to use some $2.7 million of the city surplus to fund the Board of Education deficits. Healthcare, $2.4 million, and special education, $300,000. None of which is reflected in last year's Board of Education numbers used to determine per pupil spending. To their credit, the mayor and superintendent continue to jointly address rising healthcare costs and look forward to a joint and early resolution of this major problem that hopefully will improve the Board of Education and city financial picture. The city and the Board of Education are also cooperating to implement a modified version of the old special education teaching model proposed by superintendent and wholeheartedly endorsed and funded by the mayor and the city, which we believe will benefit special education student learning. That's a good goal. Incidentally, that budget surplus that we spoke about no longer exists, but the healthcare and the special education excess cost deficit continue to build at an unsustainable pace. The Board of Aldermen applauds the superintendent and the Board of Education, the leadership. This year again, when they early on anticipated the impending state-caused special education shortfall and the city lack of surplus money to help them. They reached out to the unions asking for one furlough day to mitigate the expected deficit and the negative instructional supply impact it would cause throughout the system. 4 unions, the administrators, secretaries, nurses, and paraprofessionals agreed. The teachers and custodial maintenance unions refused. Consequently, a reduction in force in those 2 unions was necessary to mitigate the shortfall. It's that simple. No other union positions are impacted. Again, thanks to the administrators, the secretaries, the nurses, and paraprofessionals for their cooperation. There may be no instructional material shortage this year. The unfunded state special education mandate and the failure of the governing state political party, put it right where it belongs, the Democrats, to act on a bill this year to fully fund this inequity while sitting on a $1.12 billion budget surplus should be of concern to parents and cause them to rethink where their school betterment efforts should be directed. While Shelton State Representatives Perillo, McGordy, and our State Senator Kelly adamantly support 100% special education state funding, the major Democrat Party says that the state percentage of special education funding for next year will be reduced even further from 68% to 61%. So you're going to deal with a much bigger deficit, further causing more red ink. We have asked our local Democrat Party to intercede with their colleagues in Hartford on behalf of our students. Parents should do the same. Special education cannot be anticipated or budgeted. This year, our school district is predicting a $1.3 million special education deficit. This city budget is going on that we're on now. We must reach out to the Shelton taxpayers to pick up the tab and have done so in this budget. Otherwise, this Board of Education would have had to reduce staff and increase class size. Instead of using this money to reduce class size, we must now use it to fund special education deficits. There's something wrong with that picture. Parents should realize it. You can't have it both ways. We got to do what is right. We must all petition the local and state Democrats to address this gross and unfair inequity. And I'm not trying to pick on the Democrats, but they're in power. They're running the show. And this isn't going anywhere. It's getting worse every year. Teachers and every other education union should be working with the Board of Education, the city, and the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities to change the state's special education funding mentality. And so should every parent. No one thinks this funding, the funding of this law is fair, but few speak out and petition the majority party to change it. That's the only way it's going to happen. Special education parents should be the first in line. Our students deserve no less. Where have I heard that one before? The budget we adopt tonight funds the following Board of Education needs. Just to summarize, we're funding a $1.875 of contractual increases, just as you presented them to us, not $1 less. $600,000 of instruction learning materials that have been funded for the past 2 years using the ESSER fund. A new state mandated financial literacy teacher at $75,000. A $1.3 million reserve for special education deficit. And a $2 million reserve for healthcare deficit. It also funds city needs, a $2 million reserve for healthcare deficit, $150,000 for police pensions, $690,000 to pay for the Blacks Hill eminent domain judgment. And I just want to explain that. When you take a property by eminent domain, and you have to go sit at the table and try to negotiate a price. If you can't negotiate a price, it goes to the court and the judge looks at both appraisals and makes a judgment. And whatever that judgment is, you have to pay. So we have to pay for the property that's necessary to go forward with the Moss property development. We have to pay $690,000. So we put it in this budget. We think it's a fair way to handle it. We're also funding $100,000 for statutory refunds. That was a clerical error in the mayor's budget, so we had to take that action. Overall, the city is feeling the impact of inflation from a debt-ridden country that is heading into bankruptcy, financial collapse, or worse, and a state that does not recognize the burden it places on municipalities and its citizens and taxpayers. That's why so many Shelton people are moving south. Shelton has a strong tax base and low debt. We are in a much better position than most other Connecticut towns to weather this financial tsunami, I don't know. I hung up on that. But we are not immune from it. Ultimately, the fiscal pressures felt by so many other Connecticut towns will require much tighter spending controls for us to survive. And you hear the stories, read them in the paper. Darien, Stamford, all the Fairfield County towns are laying off. The Board of Aldermen wishes to thank the mayor, the treasurer, the finance director, the Board of Apportionment and Taxation, department heads, superintendent of schools, the Board of Education, and everyone who participated in the budget process, and you for coming out tonight and listening to me. Thank you. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
I'm still running this meeting. Just a minute. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered unanimously.